Even before you get to know someone, your mind can already form a judgment about them based on certain preconceptions. In essence, this isn't a choice. It's almost an automatic process. Of course, millions of years of evolution have programmed humans to quickly and simply categorize others as trustworthy or untrustworthy. And in reality, this classification happens largely without your awareness. That is, even before you've spoken a single word, the people around you have already placed you in a certain category. This information might sound a bit unsettling. However, I must point out that it also presents a tremendous opportunity, because someone who figures out how this system, this mechanism works, can easily turn it to their advantage and use it positively. That's exactly why today we're going to analyze in detail something that isn't talked about much, but that everyone clearly feels: how your posture, your style, and especially some of your daily habits reflect positively or negatively on your value in others' eyes. Of course, none of this requires you to have a lot of money or to completely overhaul every aspect of your life. All you need is to clearly understand what works and why. By the way, before we move on to the first point, I have a small request. Please write "I don't look simple" in the comments. Why? Because when you put something into writing, your brain essentially starts working in a different way. It no longer remains just a thought floating in your mind, but transforms into a genuine intention. And numerous studies clearly show that people who write down their goals are far more likely to achieve them than those who merely think about them. So writing that comment might seem like a very small action, but it's actually a quiet, yet highly effective promise you're making to yourself. And remember, the moment you make that promise is when change truly begins. If you'd like, let's start with the first point right away. 1. Having ironed and clean clothes on makes you stand out effortlessly, even without any accessories. I want you to picture this scenario. When you wake up in the morning, you open your closet. What condition are the clothes waiting for you in? Are they wrinkled? Do they have a stain? Or do they look faded? You might not notice these things naturally, but the people around you perceive them clearly. And unfortunately, the sad part is that these people don't tell you this. They simply form a negative judgment about you in their minds, assuming you don't take care of yourself. In fact, even before you've said a single word, this has already shaped you in a negative way. There's nothing you can do about it. That's just how the human brain works. As you know, we process visual information much faster than verbal information. So, even before they've had any verbal interaction with you, they can already read you clearly. Therefore, a wrinkled outfit essentially sends them this message: I don't care much about my life. I don't pay much attention to myself. Of course, this situation naturally brings with it carelessness and similar negative connotations. So no matter how talented, kind-hearted, or intelligent you are, you're actually starting the game 1-0 behind. Now I want to ask you a critical question. For example, how long does it take to iron a piece of clothing? 10 minutes or 12 minutes? But I can tell you that the return on those 10 minutes can instantly open the door to hours of work. Because, as I said, many people want to visually perceive and feel that you're someone worth taking seriously before they actually take you seriously. Of course, this is a superficial matter, I understand. But this is the reality of life. As I said, if you reject it or refuse to accept it, you'll only be doing yourself a disservice. I want to make this point very clear. Especially for women, society tends to judge a woman's appearance in a much harsher and more critical way. Of course, this isn't fair, but unfortunately, that's the reality. That's why wearing ironed and clean clothes isn't just a matter of personal style for you. It's also a powerful statement. Because you're essentially telling the person in front of you, I'm fully prepared and I value myself, simply through your appearance. I'd also like to point out that cleanliness and order aren't just about how you look on the outside. They're actually incredibly connected to how you feel on the inside. So, someone who leaves the house in a clean, ironed outfit tends to walk with much better posture, and their voice comes out much clearer and more confident. Because, in reality, Their inner state aligns with their outer appearance. And this situation, whether you're aware of it or not, significantly changes how the people around you perceive you. By the way, I'm aware that this might be the third or fourth or maybe even more video you've watched on my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, that really saddens me, because seeing you here and journeying together is especially valuable to me. If you subscribe, you'll not only support me in the strongest way possible, but we'll also never lose touch. If you'd like, let's move right on to the second point. 2. Dressing without knowing color coordination leads to a bad impression, regardless of how much you spend. Let me start this point with a different example. Say your closet is quite full, packed with all sorts of clothes. Yet when you stand in front of the mirror in the morning, the feeling of "I have nothing to wear" suddenly takes over your mind. In reality, this feeling isn't about your closet being empty. It stems from not realizing how colors interact with one another. And a lack of knowledge on this subject can trap you in a similar dilemma every morning. Yet, once you truly grasp color coordination, you can transform your life in far less time than it would take to completely restock your closet. People's eyes are far more sensitive to colors than you might imagine. Therefore, the person in front of you might not directly point out that your outfit is mismatched, but the mind distinguishes this in a fraction of a second and immediately begins to send the signal that something is wrong. Of course, this signal quietly and deeply begins to affect that person's trust in you and how seriously they take you. You're probably not even aware of it. The person across from you might not fully grasp why they feel this way either. But the effect is very real. Also, if I were to tell you something very simple yet truly effective on this subject, you definitely don't need to go to a fashion school to understand color coordination. It's enough to grasp some basic rules. To give an example, the so-called neutral colors, white, gray, black, and navy blue, can be combined harmoniously with one another and with almost any other color. Once you start building your outfit around these colors, you've already established a very solid foundation. Adding a small pop of color from there creates an extra touch that instantly elevates you above the ordinary. On the other hand, if you consider a scenario where you use too many colors together, you might end up creating a scattered, chaotic look while trying to stand out. In other words, the person across from you will notice the riot of colors on you rather than you yourself. In such a situation, it's only natural for you to be pushed into the background. So, while the outfit is supposed to carry you, unfortunately, you end up carrying the outfit. Once you truly understand this, you can be sure your perspective on dressing will change significantly. 3. Someone who constantly complains and speaks negatively is destined to lose value in the eyes of everyone around them over time. Here's the thing. If you take just 5 to 10 seconds to think about it, for example, is there someone in your life who makes you feel drained every time you talk to them? When you walk away from them, it feels like your energy has been sucked out of you. That person might not be a bad person. They might even mean well toward you. But they're constantly complaining. The weather's bad, work's terrible, people are unkind, life is hard. And without even realizing it, you start to distance yourself from that person. Right at this point, ask yourself honestly, do you make others feel this way too? Here's the thing. The human brain acts on an instinct to protect itself from negative energy. This isn't a conscious decision, it's an automatic reaction. Spending time with someone who constantly complains sends a danger signal to the brain, and the brain says, stay away from this person. No one will tell you this to your face. But invitations dwindle, conversations grow shorter, and opportunities somehow pass you by. You can't figure out why, but the root cause often lies right here. To give an example, is complaining completely wrong? No. Sometimes venting and having someone listen to you can be truly healing. But there's a critical difference here. The difference between sharing your troubles occasionally and turning every conversation into a complaining session. One makes you human, the other defines you. And once people start defining you, the complainer label is stuck. Getting rid of that label is much harder than putting it on. Of course, there's also this. Negative talk affects not just others, but you as well. Science has proven this time and again. When you complain, your brain begins to perceive that problem as bigger, more persistent, and more unsolvable. So while you might think you're relieving stress by complaining, you're actually deepening that problem in your mind. The way out of this vicious cycle isn't to stop complaining, but to change your perspective, to view the same situation through a different lens. In fact, people of value redirect their energy elsewhere even when discussing challenges. Instead of saying, "This is going really badly," they ask, "How can I fix this?" This isn't just some fairy tale about positive thinking. It's the outward expression of a solution-oriented mindset. And people sense this. The people they want to be around, seek advice from, and share opportunities with are always those who possess this mindset. Because these people lift others up, not drag them down. In the end, remember this. If you want to feel valued, start making others feel valued. And the easiest way to do this is to make people feel a little lighter, a little more hopeful, and a little better when you're around. It doesn't require a huge sacrifice. Simply offering a solution instead of complaining, or choosing to stay silent instead of making a negative comment, is enough. Over time, people will realize they draw strength from being around you, and at that moment, you truly become someone of value. 4. Trying to over-express yourself, that is, talking too much and explaining everything, is a clear sign of insecurity. As many of us might guess, some people walk into a room and naturally draw attention without any effort. They speak little, but every word carries weight. Those around them want to listen to them, to ask for their opinion. Then there's the complete opposite. Someone who talks constantly, explains everything, and tries to prove themselves. And what's interesting is that the more they talk, the less those around them listen. This is no coincidence. It's a very deep truth of human psychology. Actually, there's another truth. Beneath all that talking often lies this feeling. If I explain it enough, they'll understand. If I talk about it enough, they'll accept me. If I talk enough, they'll see my worth. But the opposite happens. Because truly valuable things don't have to prove themselves. A diamond is placed in a display case. It isn't explained. You're the same. When you constantly try to explain yourself, you're unconsciously saying, "I don't think I'm valuable enough, so I'm trying to convince you." I also want to say this. At your next meeting, conversation, or encounter, try this. Speak less. Take a breath before speaking. Don't answer every question immediately. Don't try to fill the silence. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Because that voice inside you will say something, or they won't notice you. But don't listen to that voice, because that voice isn't protecting you, it's belittling you. In addition to this, explaining everything sends the message that you don't trust the other person's intelligence. Even if people don't consciously realize it, they sense it. A feeling arises within them that this person thinks I can't understand, or they're not confident enough in themselves, so they keep explaining. Yet when you speak sparingly and to the point, the other person begins to fill in the gaps. In their mind, they envision you as a larger, deeper, more mysterious figure. This is more effective than the most expensive image campaign. Never forget that silence is not a weakness, but a strength. After all, when you look at history's most influential people, you'll see one thing they all have in common. They choose their words carefully. They don't speak unnecessarily. Of course, when they do speak, their words carry weight, because the value of something overused diminishes. This applies to money as well as to words. The less you speak, the more you're listened to when you do. And being listened to gives you far more power than shouting at the top of your lungs. Ultimately, expressing yourself is a beautiful thing. Sharing your thoughts and putting your ideas out there is valuable. But you need to do this not out of a need for approval, but from a place of inner confidence. Here's the difference. Someone seeking approval speaks and watches the other person's reaction. Someone speaking from inner confidence says what they need to say and doesn't look back. It's always the latter person that others follow, value, and take seriously. And to be that person, you don't need to talk more. On the contrary, you need to talk less. 5. Using too many and overly complicated accessories makes you look much cheaper than simplicity. We've come to one of the most important and valuable points. For example, you look in the mirror in the morning, feel like something is missing, and reach for your closet. You add a bracelet, then a necklace, then earrings, then maybe another ring. It looks better now, you say. But actually, that feeling, the sense that something is missing, doesn't go away by adding accessories. Because that feeling comes from within, not from the outside. And no matter how many accessories you add, that void doesn't fill. It just makes the look more complicated. Essentially, when the human eye encounters a complex image, it doesn't know where to focus. And an image without a focal point sends a scattered signal to the brain. This scatteredness, even if you're not aware of it, creates the impression in the mind of the person observing you that this person doesn't know how to express themselves. Yet a single right accessory creates a much stronger impact than 10 wrong ones. Less but right always beats more but wrong. Let's look at it from another angle. Here's a very practical tip for you. When adding an accessory to an outfit, ask yourself this question. If I take this off, will something be missing? If the answer is no, then that accessory is already unnecessary. A truly effective accessory is one you notice when it's not there. It's felt in its absence, not in its presence. This simple test eliminates those indecisive moments you spend in front of the mirror in the morning and leads you to a much clearer, more polished look. Of course, there's this too. Simplicity that looks expensive is always more powerful than complexity that looks cheap. In other words, someone wearing 5 plastic bracelets looks far less put together than someone wearing a single, delicate, elegant bracelet. Price isn't the deciding factor here. Choice is. And making a good choice requires training your eye, not spending money. Training your eye, however, is something that develops naturally over time. Simply being aware is enough. Furthermore, simplicity is not a compromise but a choice. And this choice requires self-confidence. Because going out wearing minimal accessories means I'm already enough. I don't need anything to complete me. When this feeling becomes internalized, your choice of accessories changes as well. You no longer wear things to cover up a lack, but to subtly highlight what's already there. And the difference between these two approaches is felt by everyone who looks in the mirror, even if it's not spoken aloud. Ultimately, when you look at the most stylish people, you notice one common thing. Everything isn't piled on them. One detail stands out, and everything else supports it. It's a matter of coordination. And this coordination depends not on how full your closet is, but on how consciously you make your choices. From today onward, choose less, but choose better. Every time you look in the mirror, you'll feel that difference, and over time, others will notice it too. 6. Clothes that fit your body make a much bigger difference than the brand. I'd actually like to start by asking you something. Which looks better? An expensive, well-known brand item that's too big for you, or a simple piece from an ordinary store that fits you perfectly? You already know the answer deep down. Because the eye doesn't lie. A garment that doesn't fit your body, no matter how expensive it is, makes you look smaller. A garment that fits your body, on the other hand, instantly flatters you, makes you look taller, and helps you exude confidence without even realizing it. Here's the thing, the way clothes fit the body actually follows a very simple logic. When an outfit follows the contours of your body, the eye perceives a cohesive whole, and that sense of cohesion creates the impression in the mind that this person is put together. But when an outfit is too loose or too tight, the eye immediately picks up on that mismatch. And this perception, without you even realizing it, positions you as someone who is disheveled, careless, or even lacking in self-confidence. Yet you've simply chosen the wrong size. Such a small detail makes such a big difference. To give an example, when you go shopping, don't look at the size label. Look in the mirror. Because sizes vary from store to store. There's no such thing as a standard. What matters isn't the number on the tag, but the image you see in the mirror. Do the shoulders sit right? Is the waist defined? Is the length correct? If you can answer yes to all three questions, that outfit is yours. If not, no matter how much you like it, it should stay on the rack. Also, there's one more thing, and this is a point that's often overlooked. A small alteration can take a garment to a whole new level. The hem of a pair of pants can be shortened a bit, the sleeve of a shirt can be taken in, or a dress can be taken in slightly at the waist. These changes are both very affordable, and what makes that outfit uniquely yours. An outfit touched by a tailor's hand cannot be compared to one worn straight off the rack, because one is made for everyone, the other is made just for you. Also, never forget that wearing clothes that fit your body is also about accepting your body and showing it respect. Trying to hide your body in clothes that are too loose or forcing your body into clothes that are too tight both led to the same outcome, discomfort. And that discomfort follows you throughout the day. You're constantly tugging at it, adjusting it, checking yourself in the mirror. But when you step out of the house in a garment that fits your body perfectly, you forget about the garment. And when you forget about the garment, you focus on yourself. This freedom is priceless. The bottom line is this: a brand tells a story, but a perfect fit reflects a truth. People may listen to stories, but they see the truth. No one may ask about the brand of the outfit you're wearing, but everyone can tell if it suits you or not. From now on, when you look in your closet, ask yourself this: is this outfit carrying me, or am I carrying it? The answer should always be the same. The outfit should carry you. You'll simply shine within it. 7. Well-groomed lips and teeth frame your face, positively transforming your entire appearance. In a different scenario, for example, when talking to someone, where do your eyes go first? To the eyes, then to the mouth. This is universal. All over the world, across all cultures, when the brain encounters a human face, it reads the eyes first, then the mouth. Because communication flows from there. Emotions are read there. Trust is built there. That's why the care you give to your mouth, lips, and teeth creates a much greater impact than you might think. And this care doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be mindful. Of course, lips are a detail that isn't often talked about, but is incredibly powerful. Dry, chapped, and neglected lips can overshadow even the most beautiful makeup, because the eye is drawn there, and that focus can ruin the overall impression. On the other hand, lips that look moisturized, well cared for, and healthy add a natural vitality to the face. Plus, it doesn't take much to achieve this. A regular moisturizing routine, drinking plenty of water, and protecting your lips. Such a simple routine creates a significant change you'll notice when you look in the mirror. In addition to these, teeth are a topic all their own. When you smile or open your mouth to speak, your teeth take center stage in that moment. Yellowed, neglected, or poorly maintained teeth unconsciously create a sense of distance in the person you're facing. It's harsh but true. On the other hand, clean and well-maintained teeth add an incredible glow to your face. Your smile becomes warmer, your speech more compelling, and your overall impression much stronger. And this is an effect that even a $1,000 outfit couldn't create. The truth is, dental care isn't as complicated as people think. Regular brushing, flossing, and occasional professional cleanings will keep your teeth healthy and well-maintained for many years to come. Don't view this as a beauty ritual, but rather as part of your relationship with yourself, because someone who takes care of their teeth is someone who values themselves, and that value becomes visible to the person across from you with every smile. So never forget, your face is like a painting, and every painting has a frame. Your lips and teeth are that painting's frame. The more carefully crafted the frame, the more valuable the painting inside appears. Up until now, you may not have paid much attention to this detail, But from now on, when you look in the mirror, look not only at your eyes, but also at your mouth. There, you have the opportunity to make a small yet powerful change. And that change will ensure that in the mind of every person you meet, you are perceived as someone much stronger, much more well-groomed, and much more valuable. 8. Not having your own style puts you in an invisible position within the crowd. To give an example, is there someone who comes to mind right now whom you truly consider stylish? Why do you remember that person? Probably not because they were wearing very expensive clothes. It's because they always carry themselves the same way, because they have something unique about them. Maybe they always stick to a single color palette. Maybe they style their hair the same way every time. Maybe they have a small but consistent detail. That consistency is what makes them memorable. And this is something anyone can achieve. It doesn't require money. It requires awareness. Actually, here's another truth. Style isn't about what you wear, but how you wear it. Following fashion isn't style. Fashion is constantly changing. Style is timeless. Someone who jumps on a new trend every season has never truly found themselves, because every trend represents a different identity. And if you adopt a different identity every time, people will struggle to define you. Someone who can't be defined isn't remembered. And someone who isn't remembered, no matter how good they are, will simply fade into the crowd. The critical question here is, what makes you, you? Is it your interest in colors, simple lines, natural textures, or classic cuts? You don't have to look far to find these. Look back. What were you wearing on the days you felt your best? Which photos make you say, "That's me"? The things that made you feel comfortable in those moments hold the clues to your style. Start there. Move forward with small but consistent steps. Additionally, creating your own style sends a very powerful message to the world. It says, "I know myself." It says, "I don't need anyone else's approval." It says, "I know what suits me." It's hard to convey these messages with words, but when you convey them through your style, people pick up on them without even realizing it. And once that perception is established, people start seeing you in a different light, as someone more confident, more decisive, and more in control of themselves. Looking at it from another angle, finding your style also makes shopping easier. When you know what belongs to you, you don't wander around the store for hours. Your eye immediately picks out the right thing. Over time, your closet begins to fill with fewer but more appropriate pieces. You know what to wear every morning because everything in your closet belongs to you. It reflects who you are. This clarity positively impacts not just the way you dress, but the overall flow of your life. A little order creates a great deal of freedom. Ultimately, know this. You don't need to shout to stand out in a crowd. You just need to be yourself. If you can stay true to yourself while everyone else is following the trend, that is a strength in itself. Because people notice what's different, remember what's unique, and appreciate what's authentic. Take a look at your closet today and ask yourself, do these clothes truly reflect who I am? If the answer is no, that's where you'll start finding your style. And from that point on, everything will become much clearer. 9. Choosing a simple yet thoughtful look over one that looks expensive but lacks soul is what truly makes the difference. Essentially, I want to start by saying this. Have you ever come across someone in your life who was dressed expensively but just didn't seem to come together? Everything seems to be in its place. The clothes are high quality, the accessories are spot on, the hair is neat. But something is missing. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you feel it. That feeling is called soul, and soul cannot be bought with money. The feeling you carry within yourself while dressing reflects outward so powerfully that it can sometimes render even the most expensive outfits meaningless. So let's answer this. What does it mean to dress without a soul? It means dressing just to look a certain way. It means dressing to please others. It means dressing to follow trends, to impress, or to prove something. Clothes worn with that intention, no matter how expensive, feel empty, because there's no feeling behind them. And people sense this. They might not be able to explain it, but the feeling that this person is forcing something arises naturally. A forced appearance always falls short of a natural one. In essence, dressing simply yet consciously is not a lack, but a choice. It's about saying a lot with just a few pieces. Look at the simplest outfit in your closet. A solid colored top, well-fitting bottoms, clean shoes. If you've chosen these correctly and carry that "this is me" feeling within you, that outfit will make you appear far more powerful than a complex ensemble that took hours to put together. Because simplicity means clarity, and clarity means confidence. Of course, there's another point. There's a crucial difference between looking expensive and looking valuable. Looking expensive comes from the outside, looking valuable comes from within. Looking expensive can be imitated, looking valuable cannot, because value lies in your attitude, your poise, and the awareness behind your choices. And when that awareness reflects in your clothing, the person across from you senses it. Without even seeing the price tag, they'll say to themselves, "This person is special." That should be the real goal. Ultimately, dressing is actually a message you send to yourself every morning. It's the answer to the question, who do I want to be today? When you answer this question with awareness rather than money, both the impression you give to the outside world and the way you start your day change. Someone who dresses with soul stands out when they enter a room, because what they wear is a part of them, not a costume. And people always sense the difference between someone wearing a costume and someone who is truly present. Be truly present. Everything else will follow naturally. 10. People judge you in the first minute, but the lasting impression is created by your consistency and your continued attention to detail. I'd like to start by asking you this. Have you ever met someone who made a great first impression but ended up being a disappointment over time? At first glance you thought, wow, this person is so thoughtful, but in subsequent encounters that feeling gradually faded. Because that first impression was a performance. It wasn't sustainable. It wasn't genuine. And people eventually notice this, because inconsistency can destroy even the strongest first impression. True strength comes from showing the same level of care not just once, but every single time. Of course, as you might expect, first impressions matter. That's true. Science backs this up too. When people first see someone, they form a judgment within seconds. This judgment is subconscious and hard to change. But know this, that first judgment is a door. It either lets you in or keeps you out. But once you've stepped inside, whether you stay there, whether that door remains open, depends entirely on your consistency. First impressions introduce you. Consistency, however, defines you. For example, how do you feel the difference between the days you carefully get ready in the morning and the days you leave the house thinking, whatever happens today, it's fine, not just from the outside, but from the inside? Your energy, your posture, the way you communicate with people, that difference may seem small, but it grows over time. Every day you take care of yourself builds you a stronger foundation. Every careless day, however, erodes that foundation a little. And when the foundation erodes, even the strongest first impression can't stand on its own. Beyond that, consistency is also a reflection of your character. Being mindful only on important days or around important people actually shows that you're using mindfulness as a tool. But carrying that same mindfulness every day, even on an ordinary Tuesday morning, shows that it's a part of who you are, and people sense that difference over time. This person is genuine, they think to themselves, and people trust those who are genuine, and people who are trusted rise to the top in every area of life. Of course, there's one more thing. Maintaining that care doesn't have to be exhausting. On the contrary, over time it becomes a habit and gets easier. Things that require effort at first become automatic with repetition. Looking well groomed, appearing put together, choosing the right outfits, paying attention to your posture. All of these require conscious effort at the start, but after a while, They become a part of you. They become an integral part of your identity. And at that point, you're no longer exerting effort. You're simply being yourself. I want to put this very briefly. Essentially, every point we've discussed was a clear reflection of a common theme, and that is the true value you give yourself. At the core of every point was the message, I give myself the value I deserve. And once you start consistently demonstrating this value, not just once but every day, the way people around you perceive you begins to change permanently. Not immediately. Respect earned over time is, of course, the most lasting kind. And remember, you truly deserve this. Remember that a woman is the one with the power to change the world. Boldly forge your own path and savor every moment. I love you, and I want you to love yourself too.